Today, we're jumping straight back to 1966, right into the heart of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. We're going to examine a seriously chilling chapter of history, a time when local folklore forcefully and tragically collided with devastating reality. You know, this isn't just another campfire story about a creature lurking in the dark. It's a meticulously documented historical event that literally transformed a quiet community overnight.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. What actually happens when a local monster story ends in a very real-world tragedy? To answer that, we have to track a bizarre, incredibly tense 13-month timeline. We'll be digging into the data, the eyewitness accounts, and the actual historical records. We're going to see exactly how an isolated paranormal encounter abruptly shifted into a profound, undeniable historical tragedy that shook the entire country.
Section 1. Terror in the TNT Area. Let's set the scene on November 15, 1966.
So our timeline kicks off with two young couples, the Scarberrys and the Millettes. They're driving through what locals call the TNT area, which is this massive, abandoned World War II munitions dump just full of these skeletal concrete igloos. And standing near an old rusted generator plant in that totally desolate landscape was an impossible entity, a creature almost 7 feet tall with massive folded wings. But, it wasn't even the sheer size that completely paralyzed them. As they later describe it, two glowing hypnotic blood-red orbs stared right back at them through the windshield. Those eyes just burned with this unnatural, terrifying intensity. You can just picture, right? It commanded their absolute attention.
Panic instantly sets in. Roger slams his foot down on the gas. The car totally screeches away, peeling out of the TNT area and hitting the asphalt of Route 62. Within 10 seconds, they are accelerating past 100 miles per hour down this pitch-black highway. They're thinking, okay, we're escaping. But then, Linda looks out the window and gasps. The creature is airborne, but get this, it isn't even flying like a normal bird. Without flapping its massive wings even once, this 7-foot-tall entity is gliding effortlessly right alongside their speeding car at over 100 miles an hour. Just an absolutely terrifying sight.
And man, if the visual wasn't terrifying enough, the sound was somehow worse. As it paced their vehicle, the creature let out a noise that was literally burned into the memories of everyone in that car. It wasn't some deep, animalistic roar. No, it was a piercing, mechanical shriek. They actually described it as sounding exactly like a massive industrial brake pad slipping. It's just a horrific, completely unnatural sensory detail. And this impossible pursuit continued relentlessly, right up to the literal city limits of Point Pleasant, before the entity finally just vanished into the night sky.
Section 2. 13 months of panic. The escalation in Point Pleasant.
So, that terrifying chase? That was just the beginning. Almost overnight, Sheriff Charlie Males was absolutely inundated with over 100 independent reports from terrified citizens describing similar chilling encounters with this massive winged figure. But looking at the historical record, the terror was actually already building up. Let's walk through this chronological escalation real quick. Just 3 days prior, on November 12th, 5 cemetery workers digging a grave in nearby Clendenin spotted a huge brown-winged human shape lift off from the trees and glide right over their heads. Then, fast forward to November 14th, literally the day before the infamous car chase, a local contractor named Newell Partridge watched his TV suddenly go pitch black, replaced by this bizarre hypnotic humming noise. Outside, his German Shepherd, Bandit, starts howling hysterically toward the hay barn. Partridge shines his flashlight into the dark, and what does he see? Yep, those exact same glowing red eyes. Bandit charges out into the dark toward the entity, and the dog is never seen again.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer volume of what happens next. When famed investigator John Keel arrived in Point Pleasant, he found a town absolutely flooded with a complete paranormal influx. I mean, we're talking way beyond just the incredible Mothman sightings here. The area was suddenly plagued by UFOs in the skies, severe poltergeist activity popping up right inside witnesses' homes, and even ominous visits from pale men in black who were actively threatening witnesses to keep their mouths shut. It was like the entire fabric of reality in Point Pleasant was just unraveling all at once.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Silver Bridge Tragedy. December 15th, 1967.
As December of 1967 rolled in, sightings of the winged creature abruptly stopped, but they were replaced by this suffocating, heavy sense of dread hanging over the town. And tragically, that dread materialized on December 15th. It was the frantic rush hour of the Christmas shopping season. Dozens of cars were packed tightly, bumper to bumper, on the Silver Bridge.
which was the main vital artery connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio. Suddenly, without warning, the bridge began to tremble. In a matter of seconds, a critical I-bar link in the suspension chain completely failed. The massive, heavy steel structure of the bridge twisted, literally like it was made of paper, under the weight of the traffic. In one horrific, chaotic moment, the entire bridge collapsed, plunging the vehicles and all their passengers straight into the icy, churning waters of the Ohio River down below.
46 people lost their lives that evening in the freezing waters of the Ohio River. To this day, it remains one of the deadliest bridge collapses in United States history.
Section 4. Monster or silent protector. Let's look at its true nature. In the agonizing aftermath of the collapse, a really chilling detail started to emerge. Multiple survivors and witnesses came forward claiming they actually saw the massive winged silhouette of the Mothman perched high up on top of the bridge's superstructure just days before the disaster. And then once the bridge fell, the creature was just gone. And this brilliantly illustrates the central conflict that historians and paranormal researchers have debated ever since. On one side, you have the interpretation of the Mothman as a demonic monster, right? A malicious entity that showed up, terrorized a town, brought a massive wave of paranormal chaos, and maybe even directly caused the bridge to collapse. But on the other side, you kind of have to wonder, was the creature actually a silent protector? Was it a harbinger of doom whose dark, terrifying presence was simply this desperate, misunderstood warning of the tragedy that was destined to strike?
It really leaves us with an eternal, haunting question to wrap up this explainer. Based on the historical facts, the sheer volume of police reports, and the chilling eyewitness descriptions of this massive, red-eyed entity we've just unpacked together, what do you actually believe? Was the Mothman a demonic monster terrorizing an innocent town? Or was it a silent protector, tragically unable to communicate its dark warning of the coming collapse? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and, well, I'll leave you to ponder that chilling thought.